right, we are off and running, and it was incredibly exciting to have our first episode earlier this evening, and now we're back on. And for me, that is how I like to operate because when we talk about being stronger together, one, it's not just about the individuals involved because I want to make sure to thank our sponsors, Swivel and Bowl, because having the opportunity to partner with solution providers allows us to reach out to more individuals, reach out to more students, and have that learning experience that enhances our learners and helps all of us grow to our full potential. Which brings me up to our next guest. It was incredibly exciting, as I shared earlier, that had an opportunity to head to Rochester, New York, which, first of all, I thought was near Albany. Not the case. So I'm learning things each and every day. So I live near Foxborough, so I'm like, yeah, that shouldn't be too bad of a drive because I grew up in Pittsfield, and that was like an hour from Pittsfield. I'm about 2 hours, 3 hour drive. Yeah, no, it's about a 6 hour drive, about an hour flight. So decided that we're still going to make it happen because a lot of the individuals I've had a chance to meet over the years were there, and then some that I haven't met and was looking forward to get to know better. And having that opportunity to connect again with individuals, connect again at sessions and sit in and learn so many different things is really the goal of doing this, was goal of writing the book Stronger Together and talking about even the power of connections, talking about learning from each other. And our next guest is someone who I had a chance to meet like probably super briefly, and I probably had Google Expedition glasses on, so we probably didn't have an opportunity to meet as much as I would like, and then had an opportunity this weekend to sit down, have dinner, with a group of people, and also get to know more of her work. And it's definitely something I have not dove into much, and I can really want to continue to learn. So I want to bring her on, Jaime Donally, all the way from Texas.
Yeah.
And she's going to be sharing some of her great things that she's been doing. So Jaime, thanks for joining us, and thanks for jumping on. You had me a little nervous there. I'm like, I know you're in the Central Time, but it said Eastern on all the things, but you made it.
I did. I'm sorry. I went to try to shut off some noise here in the background because everybody's home,
Of
um,
course.
and just trying to make sure that it was quiet enough for me to connect. So
Yeah,
a minute
absolutely.
later than I expected.
So for those people in our world who are listening or watching, tell us who you are. Like for people who don't know the amazing work that you do. And Mel A is here all the way from South America. So Mel A, it has been a long time. How have you been? I know this. We're talking to Jaime, but Mel A chimes in. Like you gotta say hi to her.
That's important.
Yeah. So Jaime, tell us a little bit about you and about your work and uh, your impact on the field.
Yeah. So, I was a math teacher and went into instructional technology, supporting teachers across the board, how to incorporate technology into their classroom when there was obviously a lot of technology flooding in, how to navigate that space. And in the process of that, early on, was exposed to augmented reality. Although I was exposed earlier, I did not know the terminology to
Okay.
connect to that technology. So, but it was one of those things that it was like, this could be used anywhere for anything. Next day, I'm out teaching teachers. They're incorporating it into classrooms. We're doing it in trainings. And it was just one of those things just continued to grow. Seeing the connection with virtual reality, I think there's always been, like, let's pull the two apart. One's better than the other, or which
Sure.
one's more appropriate. And I've always seen that, they are under the umbrella of immersive tech. So being kind of this, I don't know, I've always envisioned how this could be done with learning. I'm excited about how it's used, but I'm not passionate about how it could be used other than really how this functions in our classrooms. So it's an exciting journey. I've been part of it, just sharing and passion. I've been sharing, presentations for a long time. And then ISTE reached out at one point and asked about writing a book. And I thought I was helping to support somebody else write a book. I was a math teacher. Um,
Okay.
and so writing was not my thing and did not have any vision of that whatsoever. Halfway through the call, realized what they were asking for and thought, no, you got the wrong. And then I said, yes, crazy. But I knew the importance of having it written down for teachers. So that's been a lot of my journey, is just resources, just constantly looking at what's coming out, evaluating kind of what is optimal for classrooms, what's practical, which is very different because I think a lot of people are like jump in head first, and I'm a lot more, nope, let's get prepared. Let's know how we're going to use it. Is it safe? What's privacy? All of those factors that really are kind of an afterthought with this technology. I try to be more on the practical side of implementation, and then also realizing we got a million things on our plate. When is it appropriate to implement? At what point, do we empower our students to really run with it? So it's been cool. It's been a fun journey.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you said there that was really incredible, and I want you to talk a little bit more about it, is that you talked about people just jump in and don't think about the safety of it, and they don't think about the digital citizenship aspect and student safety. And people are like, it's just the technology aspect. Oh, it's just virtual reality. What are some of the things that you advise teachers when they start going down this road? Now, before they put on any equipment or dive into any tools, what's the first thing that they should be looking at?
That's a great question. I almost feel like half of me right now. I feel like I need Dr. Mary Alice Curran with me. It really, our work together, my concept of digital citizenship was pretty minimal. Meeting her has been probably one of the biggest privileges of my lifetime one, as a parent, as an educator, of how to encourage people, because I want to just say no to everything, right? Just shut it all down. And of course, that's not the way we approach anything in life. But it was really through her guidance and just, seeing a bigger vision for what digital citizenship could be, and being with your students and present and being part of the journey with them as opposed to dictating. So I think a lot of the concerns that I have when it comes to immersive tech it does stem from privacy. You have situations where you have body tracking, you have facial recognition. Yep. You have all of your information connected to maybe things like your avatar, your presence of what you're doing online, all of these types of activities that are being collected about you. To some extent, there's been some guidance on how to do that, but there's not necessarily been a whole lot of laws put into place to restrain or restrict people from collecting or what they're doing with that. So there's a lot of concerns on that side. There's also concerns about, what you're stepping into. Sometimes we jump into it out of enthusiasm, like I have. Let's jump into this VR chat place. This sounds amazing. All these people are jumping in with you, and you have, language in there. You have discussions in there, completely inappropriate for a classroom setting. And so, as an educator, knowing what you're guiding your students into too, you have to do your due diligence to some extent. And then also, being not so restrictive to where it's impossible to do anything. And I think, schools do that too, right? You have schools that say, we're doing nothing. Like, you can't even get on the internet. We're doing everything. Let's not restrain you from, no problems. And then you got chaos on both sides. So there's problems, I think, when you're not balanced and there's not a process. So communication, having different departments coming together, planning, having a plan. What is your goal? That's usually the very last thing people think about, which is
really, I'm surprised.
You need to think about. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. So a couple of things. So you talked, and one of the things we do in this field is we make an impact and then gloss over our impact. We're like, you kind of threw in, oh yeah, no, I wrote a book and I worked with ISTE. But let's talk about that. So you started to talk about immersive classroom. So this is one of the books that you wrote. And what I like about it, and besides the cover, I think is really cool, the subtitle is Create a Customized Learning Experience with AR VR. So first of all, if you wouldn't mind, talk a little about the book, and you can get it on Amazon. You can check out so many things that Jaime does. I'm going to throw the website down below. Jump on there, see all the great work. But dive into that a little. Tell us a little bit of the backstory.
Well, the first book that I wrote, Learning Transported, was almost it was to hook, right? So it was like, this is worth it. Let me tell you why. Why do we need to not ignore this? This isn't just another fidget spinner. Like, this is something that we need to take serious.
Right.
So it was almost like a call to taking immersive technology serious. Here's lesson plans to get you started. Here's some ways that it can be used. I
Sure.
think that was my first bid at getting the information out there. The second one, which is really more about, my passion, and that is understanding who our individuals are, having those relationships with our students to know what best to bring into the classroom. And that means that we're not looking at just a general app where this is for everybody. Well, it's not for everybody. Not everybody enjoys that experience. Some people get sick. Some people,
Really?
yeah, you have a lot of different issues. Some people don't have the devices available. Some people have low bandwidth. So you have to consider all of those factors, externally and internally, right? What is going on with that individual? So there's all these other factors. Of course, accessibility is a huge issue of it too. How do we make this accessible for all, as opposed to it just being the general tool for some, but not all? So there, really, the book is more geared towards looking at it as a personalized experience. And that's what immersive technology really is. You're the center of the story. You're the center of the experience. Everything's contingent on you being part of it. You're no longer just a bystander reading or watching something else. Now you're in it. And I think that brings the relevance of learning to a much higher level, and the importance of how we bring these kinds of technologies into our classroom.
So, well, first of all, I don't even know if this is AR, VR related or immersive technology. We're having like side chats within the chat. First, Rochelle's like, "Hey, love talking with you. You're awesome." Mel chimes in from down or borders. Like Mel's like, "Hey, everybody!" Like this is turning into a collaborative opportunity, which is Phil is chiming in. It's awesome, and I think it's incredibly exciting to see people get this excited about topics that sometimes people don't know a lot about, or they think they're game based, or they think they're for fun, or they think they're just for, you see sometimes at a mall where you're like, hey, come into this thing and you can have an AR VR ride. How are you bringing it into the learning aspect and bringing it front and center for students to learn?
Well, I think community, right?
Sure.
This is not a single person. So the fact that you're having a community chat right here shows where this has really been. It's, Rochelle is such an incredible example of somebody that said, I don't know all the answers, but I'll bring it into my classroom. I'll let my students be empowered with this, and I'll let them find a way. But you're right. How do you navigate what's like the starting point? Like, what's the right tool? And oftentimes that takes understanding your goals, your objectives right off the bat, and which is the most important step at the beginning. But then it's like, okay, let's find that right resource. I love doing sessions like, let's throw in some time where I have no plan here. You tell me what you're
Oh, I
working
like it.
and let's just come up. Like, what have I seen? What are some ideas? Like, oh, I've run across this. Let me look into it. Let me share that with you. And I think that's when it becomes really powerful, because, I have over 200 blogs on my site that have so many different ways of using immersive tech in education. Some are very much education focused apps or resources. Some are very general, but, can be used in education. But all of those things are listed as ideas. What are we going to see in our classrooms that are going to be most effective and best uses? What are some, some better than others, and why? Or this one offers this one offers this. So I think that the conversations are really so valuable. And again, following Rochelle's way of instructing her students, it's empowering our students, because this is their technology. This is how they connect on social media. This is the technology that they're going to develop moving into the future. So being part of that conversation with them, I think, is really an important step. And I will mention Phil, his stance on accessibility and what this means for all of our learners. I mean, he is leading the charge. He's doing some incredible work. So I just appreciate that they're on here, and again, this is all about, I connect with all of them at different events. Rochelle is one of my best friends as well. And it's just been a really incredible experience to be on this with them. And nobody's an expert. The truth is, Joseph, that none of us can say, I know it all, because every day something new comes out. We just don't know.
Absolutely. So make sure to check out Jamie says she's not an expert, but she's as close as I could say is having this work rooted in all that she does. So make sure to check out her on Twitter. And what I also liked, in diving into some of the work, and like I said, with this book, I really liked when you talked about the subtitle about customizing learning. And then for this book, talked about learning transported. And when I talk about, as a former principal, and really try to engage our learners and teachers, what does that mean, the being transported, in what capacity?
I think just not being restrained by your location is often one of the better benefits of maybe immersive experiences, that you can bring things into your classroom, or you can literally transport yourself through a virtual reality experience, a WebXR experience. You could be in a headset, you can be outside of a headset, you can be in your mobile device. I think that there are so many possibilities on what that can mean. It's so open-ended to just really allowing them to not be restrained from what they see just in their classroom, but having the possibilities of anything being there or going anywhere.
So one of the things, I'm just gonna take it a different direction for a minute. So I was watching this show the other night with Chris Helmsworth, and it's called Limitless, and it's about where he has these physical challenges to kind of calm his mind, different things. So one of the challenges was he had to go up, I think it was like a 900-foot building, and walk across this plank or whatever. He had to train himself not to be stressed. But to practice, he put on the AR VR goggles to walk, like it looked like he was looking down in the same specs that he would walk across. How is that for students when they put it on? What do you see for their? I'm watching it like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm there. And I remember I was in New York one time, and there was like a Ghostbusters thing where it looked like you were battling the Marshmallow Man. I literally knew I was in a room. I literally knew I was in a safe room, and I was frozen. Like I couldn't step forward because I felt like I was in there. What's that like for students? That must be amazing to see.
Oh, I'm going to give you a real example, actually.
Go. We don't want any fake ones here.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I have a friend, Dr. Webb, who used to work at the University of Alaska, was a professor, was teaching students how to build in Unity, which is one of the most popular platforms out there in building some of these immersive experiences. So you have these Unity, creations. The community started reaching out to Dr. Webb about some of the needs that they had, saying, hey, aviation's a big industry in Alaska, right? So we want to do a lot more of like training on the virtual reality side. Can you help support? So that, that's a project he did. He did some work with the American Indian tribes there, preserving what was happening culturally. But one of the stories he shared with me is an experience he created because bringing people to Alaska to train them on how to deal with bears. It's a very important thing if you're working outdoors in Alaska. That's like a standard.
I would think so. You want to be safe, right?
Right. And, having a bear attack is unfortunately common when you're working outdoors on a regular basis. So that was part of what they have to do. So they would have people fly out from the States, come out. They do these long, extensive classes. This person would have them walk out to the woods. They'd get bear spray, and then they'd spray it, right? And then they would say, okay, you're good to go. Here's your certificate. Bam, you're ready. He said he created these immersive experiences. And Mary Alice, by the way, is watching on Twitter.
Oh, lucky us.
She's
probably talking to the screen.
I can hear her.
She thinks we can hear her.
I can hear her. I really can.
All right, Mary Alice, if you want to ask a question, you can't just ask it to the screen. Can you text it to me and I'll ask it?
All right. So he had created this real immersive, right, bear attack that he brought in to train people. So the company was thinking cost-wise, like, I'm going to give you a way to be able to get trained on something like this that doesn't cost us this much money every single month, right? So instead, we're going to go about doing this where you're going to have this repetitive experience that you can have. So these people got into virtual reality headset, and he said, all these people have been through training, all these trainings throughout the year you have to do. And he said, it never fails. Everyone dies. Everybody dies, gets this bear attack mauls every single person that hops on. he said, I've seen people kind of hover down and go, and some people just freeze. And some people like literally run off, the headset goes flying off because it was connected to computers at the time. So, and it's just like they reacted just like you said, right, Joseph? It was like, you're there, but you still respond physically. You still respond with the same kind of fears, the same kind of enjoyment, whatever is going on. You still have this response to this virtual experience. So he said it took time that they had to actually go through. They started using bear spray too late, and then it didn't affect the bear. They used it too early, and it was like it didn't affect them at all. So you had these times where they had to learn when to use the bear spray, at what point that it was going to actually impact the bear before. But it took time for them to practice that, and different situations that they had to go through in these immersive experiences. But that's impossible. We can't do that in real life. You can't.
Thank goodness.
Experience. Right. So, dinosaurs, impossible. Going to the moon, impossible. Well, maybe. But you have these things that saying are like these impossible situations right now for us that literally become possible in our classrooms. And so giving training is a huge component of what we're seeing. That's an example of the training that we're going to see happening in industries. It's already happening, but to a larger scale. So there's, a lot of finances that are invested into that for that reason. You also have a lot of investment for real experiences that properly prepare people for these industries. So all of these things that I think are really important for us to understand is a part of our world. So we have the possibilities of doing anything, and now we can bring that into our classrooms as well.
Yeah, and I was hearing about, so we were talking about our good friend Mary Allison. There she is. We had a chance to meet a week ago tonight, actually, at dinner, and she said the bear incident was. We'll have to get over that. Oh no, just like that, I put up her picture, and you go Wheel of Doom. So who knows what happened? So one of the things I wanted to kind of jump into, because as I went down the rabbit hole to learn more about the work that you do, talk about your website, talk about the AR, VR, and EDU. So if anyone visits this Twitter account, of course, and then as I shared earlier, the website, what would individuals find when they're just diving into this work?
Yeah, so it really started off that I started a Twitter chat. It went for 5 years, where we built this incredible community of people that everybody that you've seen has been part of that chat at some point tonight. But it has been an incredible journey to learn and grow with everyone. It kind of came to a halt last year when I was like, okay, 5 years. I'm like being available every Wednesday night was exhausting, but we had so much fun. We did games always. It was very different because it was like a little mini PD session every week instead of just like asking the same questions every single week. It was always about a new resource. So everybody was just constantly getting flooded with new stuff every week. But it was a really neat journey. And I've really kind of shifted more on the website to being geared towards connecting all of that information through these events. So next month I have an event that I do, which is my AR, VR, and EDU advent calendar. So, December 1st, December 24th, I have a resource that goes out every single day. And this next month is going to be focused on STEAM. So bringing in all the immersive STEAM resources. Last year it was focused on all your Merge Cube resources. How do you use this cube in 24 different ways, which I can go on 100 different ways, but different ways that you can use your Merge Cube in your classroom. The year before was holiday focused. Now every March, I do all of the latest updates, all the new resources that have come out in the year, and I have a blog every single day in March. So in the process of doing this, I've just collected hundreds of resources for us to go through, and it lists the video. I show an example video. I have step-by-step instructions. Here's the link to download, and just constantly just refreshing the, both those that are readers, people that are interested. And it's really easy because I know for you, Joseph, somebody will say, hey, what do you recommend for this? What do you recommend for that? Instead of responding. Every time I write, I'm always writing as if I'm responding to somebody so that I can say, here's the link. You know, you have all you need right here. So
Absolutely.
anyway, so that's the goal of making it just really accessible for all of our classrooms.
So, well, another piece I just wanted to bring up. When you go to the website, you can sign up for your newsletter. You can get some of that information. If anyone was interested in the advent calendar, as you said, where do they get that? Where do they find that? Is it on your website? Is it on the Twitter account? Where do they find that?
Yeah. So if they subscribe, they'll get an email every day that
Okay.
will blast out to them. And I do put it on my blog so they can just stay informed on the blog. I do post on social so that I can keep people up to date. I always use the hashtag ARVRINEDU. So it will make it something, even if they search past stuff, you know, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, you know, TikTok. So, you know, wherever you're going, you're looking up those resources with that hashtag. And I'm not the only one. Thankfully, so many other people have taken that. When they're posting, then you get connected to an incredible community of individuals that can help support that goal as well.
So that's amazing. So one of the things, so check out the hashtag as well, all these great resources. One of the things that I see a lot, and I was an elementary school principal, and when I would bring technology in, the first thing they'd say is, "This is too much. It's a lot. It seems like a lot." And some of the things we've talked about are incredibly impactful, and their students love them, and so many great things. I mean, you know, from learning transported to immersive classroom. But if someone sees that and gets overwhelmed, like it's a lot, there's gear, where
Yeah.
can somebody start? Starting point.
Mm-hmm. I think it always starts with how do you begin any lesson, right? I always say don't start with what your students already know. Start with where they're struggling. So I can think of
Okay.
as a classroom teacher where my students struggled the most, maybe with proportions. And so I can go back and understanding how do I make something like this easier for them to understand. Go to where they're struggling and then help bridge those gaps that they have, give them deeper learning opportunities for them to go and personalize how much time do they need to spend watching this or experiencing this or building this. Because there's so many resources, I never can say, here's the one, because it's never the one. Anybody I talk to, it's going to vary because it really goes back to their goals. But I think that's where it could be really powerful to go through the blogs too, because then you could type in kind of what your goals are and filter to some of the experiences that might align with your goals and objectives there. So I actually have in the back of my book of the immersive classroom, I have over 100 different resources. In the very back indexed, it tells exactly what grade levels it could be for, what type of devices are required, what subjects you are specifically looking at, or if it's a general resource, if it's web-based, if it's app-based. So you have kind of the specific, oh, I can't even say that right now on Sunday night, the specific
I don't
details.
think I could say it Monday through Saturday either, so we're good.
So the specific details of what you're looking for, I think, you know, that really helps because then you can sort through and find some good ideas and resources to begin with. But that's, you know, generally we are restrained by a couple factors like device access, student interest, student, you know, their skills. It could be your own district restrictions, bandwidth restrictions, Wi-Fi restrictions. So generally we have some restrictions, but then you set the case by demonstrating that you can use what you can do and you can maximize that. And then if there is a path forward to get into some other areas, you can really, you know, deliver a case of saying, this is what we're doing. We want to do more. So it sets a classroom up for success.
Well, that is awesome. So make sure to check out Jamie's work. Either follow her on Twitter, check out her website. Before I let you go, I always ask the guests the same last questions. And for me, it was amazing to have an opportunity to hang out and chat just a little bit. And I look forward to further conversations to learn about you and your work. But I'm going to ask you the same question. What does Stronger
Okay.
Together mean to you?
Oh, community. That I think that's been everything. As a matter of fact, funny that you know I'm talking about community because I wrote a blog post called "Twitter is Dumb" with is Because I actually said that to my boss. I said Twitter's dumb, nobody's on it. And then I had to eat my words later because I realized the value of community. It wasn't about a platform; it was about people and finding your community. So that's what it would mean to me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on this Sunday night. I know you said you tried to make it quiet with everything going on. Hopefully, you had an opportunity to dial it in here. We've learned so much from you. For those of you learning about Jamie's work for the first time, jump on her website, check out her books. You will not be disappointed because there's so many great things happening. And again, thank you for jumping on so quickly on this Sunday night. A week ago, we're having our ears pierced from Mary Alice yelling at dinner, and now we get a chance to connect on the podcast. So thanks for jumping on tonight, Jamie.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And for all of you watching and listening, remember to continue, as Jamie said, about community. That's what it's all about, because we stay stronger together when we put we over me.